This is Tom Fox. I live in the Texas Hill Country. On Friday, July 4th, Kirk County saw the worst flooding it has ever seen. At this point, as I'm recording this podcast, nearly 70 people have been found dead, and there are many, many more people still missing. I'm going to ask you to please consider a donation to the Hill Country Flood Relief Fund. I've listed it in the show notes. I know it's a little bit unusual to make this request, but I can't tell you the tragedy that has unfolded in my home county over the 4th of July weekend. Thank you for your consideration. And now, on to the Daily Compliance News. The Daily Compliance News for July 16, 2025, the Corruption Comes to Canne edition. And we begin with that story from Ad Age, a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, and it reports a story entitled Inside Canne's Cheating Scandal, Ad Leaders on Bribery, Collusion, and Who is to Blame for the Award Show Scandal. Well, it turns out that when Brazil's agency DM9 withdrew 3 Canne-winning campaigns due to questions around legitimacy, it was a shock to many, but not for industry insiders, given the culture, they said, that pushes agencies to resort to desperate measures to win film awards at the Cannes Festival. So bribery and corruption occurs in Cannes, and it is ubiquitous. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, Markets and Finance Edition. Remember all those rules we passed after the last financial crisis, both in the United States and in the United Kingdom? Well, we seem to have forgotten why we put them in place, as there is a new willingness in both countries to rethink tough bank regulations, rules that were put in place to stop the kind of financial crisis that enveloped the world. And of course, banks are leading the rush for this, but banks acknowledge concern about a ring fence and that they understand the industry may have stepped up calls to water down that measure, but big lenders recognize the need to have appropriate financial stability. So, of course, this is the Trump administration, so you know that anything which would require companies to plan for or reserve for risk are going to be cut back. And, of course, that means we'll have another one, just as we always do. So, next from the Financial Times, mining companies are facing a new risk in West African states as the global race for critical minerals has emboldened countries to demand more control of their resources. The countries in West Africa that is entitled the Coup Belt or Coup Belt include Mali, Niger, and Guinea, where military regimes have seized power in recent years, as well as the Democratic Republic of the Congo. These governments are emboldened to act by the global race for critical minerals essential to high-tech and defense industries, as well as the transition to cleaner energy. Niger, indeed, has moved to nationalize a uranium mine operated jointly with France. The Democratic Republic of the Congo extended a ban of exports of cobalt in an attempt to boost pricing. And so you began to see some of the strategies that countries employed to get their oil and gas resources back. And our final story comes to us from the SEC press release, which notes the SEC has dropped the prosecution against Gordon Coburn and Stephen Schwartz. These were the 2 ex-Cognizant technology executives who were caught up in the Cognizant technology bribery and corruption scheme. The DOJ dropped their case against them, and now the SEC does the same. Over the July 4th weekend, we had perhaps the worst tragedy to ever hit my home county in its history over this weekend, and myself and my family are fine, but multiple others who lost loved ones, lost family members, are obviously not fine. So if you can find your way to help with any donation, I would greatly appreciate it. This is Tom Fox. Thank you very much. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.